Welcome to the Section 1904 trade deadline recap. We have so much to recap. The Padres and AJ Preller went kind of crazy the last day. I woke up this morning and I sent 2 or 3 different texts to friends of mine, including Darren Smith, saying I have real concerns that the Padres aren't going to do anything, that they're not going to make a single trade, and that they're going to go on to this rhetoric of Michael King is like a trade deadline acquisition, and they're not going to do anything. I could not have been more wrong. The Padres traded away 14 players. Coming into the Padres is 7. So they acquired 7. They sent out 14. It was 5 different trades. They all happened today. They all happened after I sent those text messages this morning saying that I was worried they weren't going to do anything. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the trades. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the future of the 2025 San Diego Padres. I don't know how long this is going to go. I'm going to try to make it on the shorter end of things because I've been doing a lot today. I think there was 6 different blog posts on Section 1904 today about this. Darren and I did kind of a recap reaction podcast to the Mason Miller trade that we'll get into in a second. Again, it's been a lot. And thank you for everyone who's been sticking around and chatting with me in the Discord and watching the live stream on YouTube and listening to the earlier podcast and reading all the blog posts that I've been writing. You guys are awesome. We love you. This has been so much more fun with a community than trying to just like pump this out and hope that people on Twitter or Blue Sky or Facebook or Instagram care. This has been awesome. Full disclosure, I'm going to talk for a while, and then I'm going to play a clip that Darren Smith sent me. It's not the clip from this morning where he was reacting to the trade with the Oakland A's. It is a clip from after the trade deadline wrapped. And Darren, in his own words, is 3 sheets to the wind in the clip. I believe he said he has done a shot of tequila for every trade that the Padres have made. He's pretty drunk, and you can hear it because his words are slurring a little bit. But the analysis he gives is so good, even when he's drunk on tequila, that I felt like you guys should hear it. I feel like you guys are going to take it for what it is, which is an excellent analysis of what the Padres did at this trade deadline, and you're not going to care that Darren did it from the poolside in Cancun after a couple shots of tequila. And this can just be one more thing that goes in the category of why Darren loves doing this more than radio, because sometimes we let him do it drunk from the poolside in Cancun. So that it's going to be me for a while, and then it's going to be like 5-6 minutes of drunk Darren doing a better job that I could possibly do here. But he left it to me to cover a lot of the details, so I'm going to cover a lot of the details. Let's go through these trades. First one, we talked about it on a previous podcast. I'm still going to talk about it because I think it was maybe the biggest trade of the day for the San Diego Padres, and it was the first one. Padres sent out number 1 prospect, and when I give these rankings, it's in the Padres system. Number 1 prospect, Leo DeVries. Number 3 prospect, Braden Nett. Number 13 prospect, Henry Baez. Number 17 prospect, Eduardo Nunez. Those last 3 are pitchers. Leo DeVries was a shortstop. He was also the number 3 overall prospect in all of baseball and thought to be a future star, possibly, for the San Diego Padres. They got sent to the formerly Oakland A's, maybe future Las Vegas A's, currently Sacramento A's, or just Athletics, which is their preferred thing, for closer Mason Miller, who throws 104 miles an hour, and lefty starter J.P. Sears, who everything appears to point in the direction of J.P. Sears is not good enough to crack this Padres starting rotation. But he's here. They're both under team control through at least 2028. I think Miller has an extra year that Sears doesn't have. I might have that backwards. But the Padres gave up heading into this trade deadline, we knew the Padres had two big chips that were quote unquote untouchable. One of them was Leo DeVries. The other one was Ethan Salas, who is a 19-year-old catcher who hasn't played since April because he has a bad back. That's a problem. I think if AJ Preller could have traded Ethan Salas for something that he felt like was good value, he probably would have done it, but he didn't. So he trades Leo DeVries and a bunch of other prospects and gets back Mason Miller and JP Sears. Now, Mason Miller is interesting for a number of different reasons. One, he's a fantastic closer on a team that already has a fantastic closer. And three other great relievers on top of that. Now they have four. The four horsemen are now the five horsemen, I guess. I don't know where Mason Miller fits in. I don't know if he takes over eighth inning work from Jason Adam. I don't know if he takes over seventh inning from Adrian Morejon, if he takes over for Jeremiah Estrada, if he becomes the fifth inning guy, the fireman. I don't know. Mike Schilt is going to have a time trying to figure out the best way to utilize this ultra uber stacked bullpen that he now has. That's just littered with actual closers and guys who are good enough to get a chance at being a closer, like Estrada and Morejon and Adam. That's cool. Mason Miller also has a bit of a history of starting, and there is some thought that perhaps the Padres would consider, not immediately, but maybe next season or the season after, letting him to convert from relief pitcher to starting pitcher. I'm interested in seeing that. I'm interested in seeing where that goes. This doesn't feel like a ton of return for two of your three best prospects in your entire system, but it's a return. And at the end of the day, it takes minor league players that were not going to help the major league team this year and gets back at least one player who is going to help this year's team. Trade one. Done. That's my analysis. You're going to notice a theme. Trade two. Freddie Fermin. The Padres finally get a catcher. Freddie Fermin from the Kansas City Royals. A catcher who hits better than Diaz and Maldonado. Cool. Who seems to be as good as those guys, if not better defensively. Cool. Is he a new starting catcher? I don't know. He's under team control for a few years, as are most of AJ Preller's acquisitions. He's got a history of that. So that's cool. No problems here, except, just wondering what's the next move. Does Martin Maldonado get released? Does Diaz get released? I don't think you can. Between the two of those, more of the starting staff throws to Diaz than Maldonado. Diaz has shown signs of offensively picking things up lately. Maldonado has as well, but not to the same degree. So my guess, I can't imagine the Padres keep three catchers on the roster. So my guess is Martin Maldonado gets released. Maybe he signs somewhere else for some other team who's desperate for a backup catcher with veteran savvy and all of that. But I don't know. He just won't be the Padres' problem anymore. In return, the Padres send out Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek. If you've paid attention to the Padres this year, these names will sound familiar to you. That is because Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek have, for all intents and purposes, been the team's fifth starter this year. They've kind of split it. I don't know if they've split it evenly, but I think Kolek has like 10 starts and Bergert has 7, somewhere around there. Bergert has been really good. He's got an ERA in the 2s. He's been really good. And there's been thought or hope that next year he could be a part of the starting rotation to start the season, and maybe he'll get even better. And maybe we're looking at a guy with, number 2 in the rotation potential. I don't know. Kolek was just a great story. Kolek was a guy that AJ Preller or someone in the Padres front office was like, that guy's going to be good in the future. And they picked him in the Rule 5 draft last year, which meant he had to spend all year on the Major League roster. They tried to bury him at the end of the bullpen as much as they could. He was pretty bad. They would try and bring him in for low leverage situations, and he was pretty bad. And this year he's been a starter, and he's been good, better than he was as a relief pitcher last year. I think he's leading the National League in double plays induced. Just seems like he's got what used to be called a heavy ball. It probably still is called a heavy ball, where a lot of guys just hit his ball straight into the ground. So as long as you have a good infield defense, those guys can be winning pitchers. And I thought Stephen Kolek was. It's a little bit of a bummer. It's a little bit of a bummer to lose these guys because not only were they valuable for this year's team, for their depth, for their performances. Like if Ryan Bergert had to start a playoff game, I don't know that I would have been that mad at it. And they go out for Freddie Fermin, who on its face, Freddie Fermin does not appear to be a giant upgrade from Elias Diaz. That being said, he is under team control for a number of years, and Diaz kind of isn't. I think Diaz has like a mutual option for next year, so my guess is they're thinking, hey, we finally got our starting catcher long term. This guy can be our starting catcher for the next 3, 4, 5+ years, maybe. They're assuming that Freddie Fermin continues to do what he's been doing with the Royals, which is always a dicey proposition when you're coming to play half your games at Petco Park and the majority of your games in NL West ballparks. But Freddie Fermin has spent essentially 3 seasons in Major League Baseball. His OPS plus in those 3 seasons are 110, 94, and 81 this year. He's hitting 255. He's got an OPS of 648. That's not good, but you know what it is? Significantly better than what the Padres have been getting from their catchers so far this year. So, sure, I guess. Feels like a lot to give up, but they felt like they had to get their guy. And between Kyle Higashioka and Jorge Alfaro, and even, you know, the first couple years of Austin Nola before his body kind of fell apart on him, AJ Preller has shown this ability to identify catchers that, if given a larger opportunity, will embrace it and perform well with it. So I'm open to Freddie Fermin being a good starting catcher for the San Diego Padres. I'm going to keep a close eye on it, but I'm open to it. That is the one trade here where I feel like they took away from the Major League team and then added back to the Major League team. So if you're lucky, it evens out or you win a little bit. But all the other trades were bringing in Major League talent and sending out prospects. Those are all wins for this year's team. Let's get to what I think is the biggest trade of the day for the Padres. And it didn't include their number 1 or number 3 overall prospect. The Padres sent 6 prospects to the Baltimore Orioles for Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn. I know you don't know who those people are. It's fine. I'll explain. Ramon Laureano, I know because when he was on the Oakland A's, I thought he was a very good player. I think someone said he got popped for PEDs when he was with the A's, but he's remained a pretty good player. He went to Cleveland for a little while, and he was not very good there for about a year. He went to Atlanta, I think at the trade deadline last year, and was very good for the Braves. Signed with Baltimore in the offseason, and he's been very good for Baltimore. He's a good hitter. He's not an incredible hitter. He's a good hitter. Let me look at his OPS plus this season is 145. He's got 15 home runs, 46 RBIs. He's batting almost 300. He's got an OBP over 350. He's slugging 529. If he could do that for the San Diego Padres, he'd be one of the best hitters in the entire lineup. So here's to hoping. It is probably the best season of his entire career. I mean, maybe he had 1 year with Oakland that technically had more WAR at the end of the season than he has now, but he's kind of on pace to catch that. He's mostly been playing right field for the Orioles. He also plays a little left field. He can play center field from time to time. My guess is he becomes kind of the everyday left fielder for the San Diego Padres and occasionally gives up a spot start to Gavin Sheets or maybe even Ryan O'Hearn, who are both, I'm not going to say they're the same player, but they play the same positions. They're both first base / left field / DH guys who can hit a little bit. But Ramon Laureano is probably now the everyday left fielder right next to Jackson Merrill, right next to Fernando Tatis Jr. I do think he's got another year that's a team option for next year. That's at a very, very reasonable rate. So this is not just a rental. This will likely be the Padres outfield this year and next year. We'll see where they're at after that. Ryan O'Hearn, like I said, kind of Gavin Sheets-ish. He was an all-star this year. This is the best year of his career. He spent the first 5 years of his career with the Royals, signed with the Orioles. Since coming to the Orioles, he had played a lot more, and he's been a winning player. Last year, he finished with a WAR of 2.0, baseball reference WAR, B-WAR. This year, as an all-star, he already has a WAR over 2. It's 2.1. OPS plus of 135. The slug is okay. He's got 13 home runs. I think Gavin Sheets right now has 15. He's hitting 283. On base is really good, 374. So now the Padres have two of these guys, and he's also left-handed. Now the Padres have two of these guys. They have two of this prototype of can play first base, can play a little bit of outfield, can play DH, good enough hitter. Not going to terrify opposing pitchers, but good enough hitter. That's good. That's good. That adds more depth. That gives them more flexibility. That gives the Padres and Mike Schilt a lot of options. And, God forbid someone should get injured, which happens from time to time. It prevents them from having to put someone in that situation that is going to be a drag on the team. So, great trade. Here are the guys that they gave up. Boston Bateman, Tyson Neighbors, Brandon Butterworth, Cobb Hightower, Victor Figueroa, and Tanner Smith. If you know any of those names, you probably pay too close of attention to the Padres. If you know all of those names, you probably work for the San Diego Padres. Welcome to Section 1904. All those guys are minor leaguers. Boston Bateman, by time this trade happened, was listed as the Padres' number 4 prospect, but this was after Leo DeVries and Brandon Nett, left via the earlier trade. So I imagine he was probably a top 4 or top 10 prospect for the Padres before today, but not the greatest prospect in the world. Same with Cobb Hightower, who was number 6 by the time this trade happened. Butterworth is not in the top 30. Tanner Smith's not in the top 30. Victor Figueroa ended up number 29 when this trade happened, and Tyson Neighbors ended up number 12. That's 3 pitchers, 2 utility infielders, and Victor Figueroa is a first baseman / outfielder. None of these guys were going to help the San Diego Padres in 2025. None of them. At best, if you got lucky, 1 or 2 of them may have helped the 2027, 2028 San Diego Padres. And to be quite honest, I don't know if AJ Preller is going to be here then. So he kind of had to push his chips in, and these are a lot of his chips, and he pushed them in, and now no one can say, oh, they got nothing in left field. And no one can be like, Gavin Sheets is just getting worn down to dust because now they got another one. And we don't really have to deal with situations where it's like, well, Gavin Sheets is playing left field because there's no other option. And I think that whole everyone on the team takes a turn being the DH for a day so they can get off their feet, I think that might be over. And I think it should be over. I think that DH spot should be a plus hitting spot for the San Diego Padres. And now between the fact that they can rotate around, but also because they have Hearn and Sheets and Arise to kind of fill in these three positions. I think we'll have good hitters in them every single day. So that's another trade. Makes the major league team better, makes the farm system worse. Kind of who cares? I'll get to my thoughts on it later. Sneaky trade, under the radar. This one was not reported by Ken Rosenthal or Jeff Passner or anyone else. This one reported by the San Diego Padres. Will Wagner, son of Billy Wagner. If you are a man of a certain age or a woman, you probably remember him. He is a Hall of Famer. He was a closer, most famously for the Houston Astros, but a little bit for the Philadelphia Phillies at the end of his career. His son doesn't pitch. Will Wagner is a hitter, utility infielder for the Toronto Blue Jays last year, and this year he plays a little first, he plays a little second, he plays a little third. I don't know if he's coming to the Major League roster or not, because the Padres kind of have a guy like this, and Jose Iglesias, and maybe even Tyler Wade as well. But Preller loves these guys. Preller loves these guys that can play multiple infield positions and they can hit a little bit. Will Wagner hit better his rookie year, sophomore year. I'm not going to say it's a sophomore slump, but he has not been as strong this year as he was last year. But here's what the Padres gave up. Brandon Valenzuela, the number 26th ranked prospect in their system, according to MLB.com at the time of this trade. That's fine. To me, that's good value. You traded away a guy who the chances of him making the majors is kind of small for a guy who's already in the majors, who as a rookie was an above average Major League Baseball player, who's got, the pedigree from his father. I like this. I like this trade. I don't know if Will Wagner goes to El Paso and waits for an injury. I don't know if Tyler Wade is getting replaced. I don't know. This could be a move for next year. But either way, I think the Padres got good value out of this one. And I like the deal. I don't know if it's going to be impactful, but I like the deal. The last trade. And this one gunks stuff up a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. It creates good problems. The Padres traded Brandon Lockridge, who for a lot of this year was the team's starting left fielder and for a time starting center fielder, to the Milwaukee Brewers for Nestor Cortez Jr. If that name rings a bell, it's because Nestor has had a little bit of an up and down career, but he was a very, very good pitcher for the New York Yankees for a few years. Most notably in 2021, when he had a 2.9 ERA. In 2022, when he went 12-4 with a 2.4 ERA, made the All-Star team, got Cy Young votes. 2023 was not as good. He still had a winning record, but he had an ERA close to 5. He did not throw a lot of innings. He threw 63 innings that year. I think there was some concerns that he was breaking down, and then he bounced back with a very good 2024. 3.7 ERA, 9-10. Not as good as 2021 and 2022, but above average. He was above average starter, and he started 30 games for the New York Yankees last year. This year, for the Milwaukee Brewers, who he signed with in free agency, he pitched in 2 games. His first game, he pitched against the Yankees in the Bronx, and in 2 innings, he gave up 8 earned runs. It was not good. He walked 5 guys, and he gave up 5 home runs in 2 innings. It was bad. In his very next start at home in Milwaukee against the Cincinnati Reds, he went 6 innings. He gave up 1 hit, no earned runs, no home runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. What a performance. And then immediately he went on the 60-day IL with a elbow flexor strain, I believe it was. probably some elbow soreness. That was on April 3rd. That was about 4 months ago. He has not pitched since then. If you've been paying attention to the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 64-44 and sitting in first place in the NL Central, you would know that they have been outstanding lately, especially their pitching. They called up that kid Mizorowski, who ended up on the All-Star team after starting like 2 games. But they've been outstanding, and they've done it all without Nestor Cortes. And I imagine they didn't want to figure out what happens when Nestor comes back to our starting rotation. So they made it the Padres' problem, or the Padres made it their problem. I don't know who initiated, but Nestor Cortes, a good pitcher who this year has thrown 2 games, one of the worst games you could ever throw, and one of the best games you could throw, and then disappeared for 4 months. He is expected back sometime soon from his injury. I saw originally he was expected to be back in late July. Today is the last day of July. I don't think he's making it back in late July, but I saw reports from Padre reporters, I think Kevin Acee, who said he's expected back next month, which would be August, which is also technically tomorrow. So he will be working his way back, probably alongside or very close behind Michael King. I only have one issue with this, and that is I think it squeezes Randy Vasquez out. And I think Randy Vasquez has been good enough to not get squeezed out, but again, these are good problems. If everyone is healthy... Oh, I should pause. When the Nestor Cortes deal happened, everyone assumed that it was going to be followed by a Dylan Cease deal. And there was a lot of talk about Dylan Cease, and the Astros were in on Dylan Cease, and the Padres and the Astros were talking in the last few minutes leading up to the deadline, and Dylan Cease is still a San Diego Padre for the rest of this year and the rest of his contract. Good for him, good for us. I like Dylan Cease. I really want it to work out, and I think it will. I'm somewhat optimistic about Dylan Cease. Very optimistic about this team lately. That we can save that for tomorrow. But if everyone's healthy, say Michael King comes back, looks great, he's healthy. Yu Darvish, let's say those first few games were him working off the rust, throwing the pitches he should have been throwing in Peoria, and now he's a good version of Yu Darvish again. Let's say Dylan Cease figures it out. He looks like Dylan Cease again. Wow, it's a great 1, 2, 3. Nick Pivetta having a fantastic season. That's your 4. Who's your 5? Is it Nestor Cortes Jr.? Is it Randy Vasquez? Is it JP Sears? I don't know. But these are good problems to have. My guess is it's probably Nestor Cortes, and Randy Vasquez either goes down to El Paso or becomes something of a swing man, mop-up man for the Padres. Honestly, I could see a situation where they try and do like a 6-man rotation for a little while, because when they pushed Yu Darvish back a day, he was so much better. And I wonder if there's this thought of if we give everyone an extra day, Darvish gets an extra day, Cease gets an extra day, King gets they all get an extra day, that is going to be less strain on their bodies. They'll be able to throw better, throw harder, figure stuff out. I could see it. It doesn't really matter come playoff time. I could see it. It doesn't matter. AJ Preller and the San Diego Padres today pushed in their chips on 2025. They said, we think this team is good enough. And they should. The Padres are, I know the Dodgers are scary. The Padres are 3 games back from the Dodgers. And you know what the Giants did today? They sold off everything they could. You know what the Diamondbacks did today? They sold off everything they could. You know what the Rockies did today? Not that they were really worth mentioning. They sold off everything they could. This division now comes down to the Dodgers and the Padres. And the Padres today, the Dodgers, they added today too. They were buyers. The Padres did what they needed to do to put themselves in that conversation for the rest of the year. You're not going to really run out of pitching now because, as I said, you have more pitching than you have spots in your rotation. You have 5 top-notch relief pitchers. you can't find, like, the Padres relief pitchers are really high up on the list of most innings thrown this year by relief pitchers. I think they have 3 of the top 5 or something like that. Now that's not going to happen anymore. You can pitch these 3 guys one night, and these 3 guys the next night, and these 3 guys the next night, and guys pitching on back-to-back nights is not going to happen that often, which is good because I've heard that Mason Miller often doesn't pitch on back-to-back nights, which is fine. I don't want to open that whole can of worms. But you have more than enough bullpen arms. You have more than enough starting pitching, assuming health. The issues you had in left field are gone. Whether that's from Laureano or Ryan O'Hearn, they're gone. The issue of DH or a backup first baseman or whatever, gone. And if you need extra depth for whatever reason, we got Will Wagner as well. The catchers, we've been picking on the catchers all year long. They got one who's better than the guys they have now. And they did all of that. And the only thing they sacrificed from the major league squad is Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek. Now, yeah, did they sacrifice some future? Sure. But A.J. Preller's probably going to get fired if it doesn't work out this year. And I'm not saying like they have to win the World Series, but they have to do something in the playoffs that makes you go like, man, they could have. Had everything broken their way, they could have. And they now have the team to do that. And as Darren is going to say, it's a fun ride to be on. I got so many text messages today from people going like, this is crazy, but it's entertaining, but it's fun. I actually want to read a quote that I think was on The Athletic. Someone was giving a grade to the Padres Athletics trade from this morning. The Athletics. I know that's confusing. Guy named Zach Meisel. And this is just one part of his review of the trade. He gave the Padres a B+, the Athletics an A. It doesn't matter. Here's the first paragraph of him writing about the trade. The real winners here? Us. We get to watch once again as A.J. Preller operates like that one person in your fantasy league who's always having the most fun. Will it work? Who cares? Screw it. Let's go for it. The sun might explode tomorrow, and none of this will matter anyway. It's a refreshing approach in a league full of uber careful, risk-averse front offices, even if it hasn't netted the ultimate prize to this point. And Darren said something similar, both to me in text message and in the drunken sound that you're going to hear in probably just a minute when I stop rambling, which is what a fun and entertaining trade deadline this was. What a fun and entertaining ride this is when A.J. Preller is in charge of your team. And A.J. Preller in this front office, they understand the moment. They understand that A.J. Preller's contract runs out after next year, and they're probably not going to want him as a lame duck. They understand that this team, which has shown signs of being able to do something special, needs to do something special. And they didn't get conservative, and they didn't try and save their jobs and nibble around the edges. They went for it in whatever way they could. And they added so much depth that now it's on Mike Schilt, it's on the coaching staff, it's on the players. A.J. Preller has done his job. If he sleeps, he should go sleep. Or have a drink, or do whatever he needs to do, because he was an absolute madman today. And the Padres are better for it. All right, that's enough of me. I will be back tomorrow with some more thoughts specifically on the Padres, what they look like now, what a lineup might look like, how they match up to what the Dodgers did, and how the Dodgers look right now. We're going to get into all that. And I'm going to have a fun co-host, I think. But I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to jinx it. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to bid you all adieu and send you off to Cancun.
All right, so full disclosure, I've had a shot at tequila for every single transaction that the Padres made today here on the trade deadline day, and I am 3 sheets to the wind. Seriously, who can keep up with that? That was insane to watch, even through the spectrum of social media, as I am still here pretty much where I was the first time that I checked in. Poolside in Cancun. Did get into the room. Our group did show up. Part of a group, 25 or so people here in Cancun. But What a day for the Padres. What a day for AJ Preller. He truly is the madman behind the wheel, isn't he? And he is. We are all on this ride, and we have an absolute maniac behind the wheel of the vehicle steering us in some direction. I have no idea what direction this is going to go. I will just say it is really interesting. It is really engaging. And quite honestly, it's a ton of fun. The Padres added, 8, 9 different players? I can't even keep tabs on this. I'm sure John will have a much more balanced look at everything that happened today before the trade deadline. But from where I am, Padres got a couple of new pitchers, a new catcher, a left fielder, a first baseman, and did have to part ways with a really, really good prospect. But that's something that's 2-3 years down the road. And obviously the Padres are in a position where they're just saying we are all about what it is that's going to happen today, tomorrow, the next couple of months, and this postseason. And we will adjust accordingly. And that's the AJ Preller experience, isn't it? It really is the AJ experience in a nutshell. This may be the most frantic of all the trade deadline days that we've had with AJ Preller in his time with the San Diego Padres. So, I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I think it's honestly a ton of fun. I'm sure somebody can do an analysis of what has gone out and what is coming in. And maybe the analysis will suggest that the Padres gave up too much, or they gave up too much of their future. Whatever. There's plenty of people that will do that sort of stuff. But just from where I sit, I do really appreciate what it is that Preller is trying to do. And he might get fired for this. I think he knows that. I think everybody in the organization is well aware of where the Padres are. This might not work out. This might blow up. And this might be the final couple months for AJ Preller. Or the alternative is that this is going to work out. And some of these moves are going to help the Padres. They're a better team today, certainly on paper, than they were when I woke up here this morning. So from that standpoint, I think you have to give the guy a ton of credit. I do. I think that there's something about him that should be appreciated, even if you disagree with the tactics and the strategy. This guy, everything he does, he is trying to win today. He's not worried about 2027. He's not worried about 2028. He's worried about today. And as I posted on social media, there is that Hunter S. Thompson line about buying the ticket and taking the ride. We are buying the ticket and we are taking the ride with AJ Preller. So where this is going is anybody's guess. For a little bit of perspective, I'm down here. There's a winemaker who I consider a friend of mine. His name is Jeff Stewart. He's the winemaker for a winery in Sonoma County, Russian River, called Hartford Court. He's a dyed-in-the-wool Giants fan, and he's just crushed. He's already on to the San Francisco 49ers. He's so over the Giants. And we were talking about some of the trades that the Padres made today, and he seriously looked and said, I just so wish we were in this position. I wish this was us that you were talking about and not one of our division rivals. Now, is this the way that you analyze trades? Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. I think you'd much rather hear from Keith Law or Jeff Passan, or pick your MLB insider over some winemaker whom most of you probably have never heard of. But just in terms of being a fan, he couldn't have been more envious of the position that the Padres are in than what it was than we were chatting about it here a little bit earlier today. So again, I'm not trying to say or sell anybody. It could go really, really wrong. It could go wrong. And I think that's a risk that AJ Preller and his front office was willing to take. I think they know what they gave up. I think they know that they are taking a huge risk to make this team better. I also think that they are motivated by trying to win this season. They are not trying to keep their jobs. They are not trying to play safe, thinking that all they have to do is just be predictable and play it safe and play for 2026 or 2027. They are going for it this year, and I think there's something to be said for that. Whether it works or whether it doesn't work, ultimately the results will be the judge. But from where I sit today, I'm a fan. And I'm hoping it works out.